We now return to Let's Play Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. It's a very long name for this game. Anyway, the first class, Passageway. The 9th of January, 7:48 a.m. The first class cabin, Passageway. Whew, I'm finally out of that cabin. I have to admit, this isn't quite what I was expecting. It's less spacious out here than I thought it would be. This is the most luxurious accommodation. Yes, indeed. Kazuma-sama was being sent on this study tour by the government. That's why he was being put up in a first-class cabin. Even still, this is about twice as large as my accommodation in steerage. Really? That must be awful. Oh, look over there. It's Zangief. That's another crewman keeping watch, and he looks enormous, even if he is sitting down. His clothes don't fit him at all. The door next to him leads to the second-class accommodation. I suppose he's making sure no one comes in here who shouldn't. I suppose. Like people in handcuffs? Naruhodo-san, you look like a little boy visiting a toy shop for the first time. I would have thought you'd be used to the ship by now. We've been at sea for 2 weeks already. Well, yes, I know, but the thing is, I was inside Kazuma's trunk when I first came aboard. And ever since then, I've been shut up inside that little wardrobe. Must have been a very trying time for you. Please don't give me that pitying look. Examine. This looks like a plan of the SS Burya. It shows each deck, look. The Burya is a large-scale steamship with a triple-skinned hull. What a marvel of engineering. Well, it's been playing on my mind for a while now, actually, but how is it that such a huge lump of metal doesn't just sink to the bottom of the ocean? Oh, that's really quite simple, Naruhodo-san. Is it? Well, consider the Japanese archipelago. The islands of Japan. Yes, they're not metal, but they are enormous lumps of earth, many, many times larger than this ship. And they don't sink, do they? They've been floating happily on the sea since the gods created them. Well, I suppose so. That's a huge book on top of the table there, and there's a pen next to it. Yes, that looks like the ship's log. Shall we have a little look through it? The writing is so neat and precise. Every detail about the voyage has been meticulously recorded, no doubt in Cyrillic because it's a Russian ship, so we shouldn't be able to tell a damn thing about it. You wouldn't expect a rough and ready sailor to have such beautiful handwriting. And nothing. No reaction at all? I thought he might appreciate the compliment. I'm not sure that rough and ready is much of a compliment, Naruhodo-san, even to a sailor. Anyway, last night's log is mostly blank. Presumably that means there's nothing to report. That's the way to the second-class area of the ship. Is something wrong? I was thinking about making a run for it, just for a moment. Things aren't exactly going well for me. I might be wrong, but I imagine the moment you reach for the handle of the door, that burly seaman would surely shoot you dead. Oh dear, I'm sorry. Perhaps I went a little too far there. No, I started it with my talk of running away. There's no way I could run away while Kazuma's death remains a mystery anyway. I guess we're talking to him again. Excuse me, but could I ask you something? You little stowaway murderer? He had that, it honestly reminded me of Zangief in the cutscene. It was very over the top. What are you talking about? It wasn't a good start, was it? Alright, let me try instead. Good day, Mr. Sailor. I'm so sorry to trouble you, but could I perhaps ask you something? Ask something of you? You? You little third-class lady's maid? Oh. We seem to have got this sailor on a bad day, Susato-san. I'm not a sailor. My mother gave me a name. I'm senior crewman Beef Stroganoff. Beef Stroganoff. I think the best thing is to avoid eye contact. First class cabin area. He even has the stripes. Commando stripes. Mr. Stroganoff, about this first class cabin area. Here we are in the finest part of Burya steamship, for very important persons. What sort of very important persons? Government officials, kings and queens traveling in secret, many important persons. That is why I was always guarding the place. Am always guarding the place. Gosh, that's amazing. But somehow I've let stupid stowaway inside. I want to pick you up and throw you in ocean, but Stroganoff is not animal. Thank you? If I may, I was wondering, is the cabin next to Mr. Osogi's currently occupied? Sato-san, did you understand that? It sounded like da. I think it's probably Russian for yes, or no. Genius. It is not permitted to visit other cabins without invitation. Well, it sounds like there's somebody in the next door cabin at least. Yes, it's tantalizing. Passenger in the next door cabin. Could you tell us who's traveling in the cabin next to Mr. Osogi's? His name is Mr. Grimsby Roylott. Roylott? Is very important Western gentleman. A Western gentleman. Do not think about it. He has nothing to do with murder of student boy. Murder. Yeah. How can you be so sure about that? Mr. Roylott is authentic Western gentleman. Such a man would have no interest in lowly student from insignificant Far East Islands. That was harsh. This is definitely pre-war. Could you tell us when Mr. Roylott came aboard? That is not your business. Come to think of it, even though we've been at sea for 2 weeks now, and I've been in Kazuma's cabin the entire time, I've never once heard anything from the next door cabin, or even felt like there's anyone there. Well, presumably since this gentleman is occupying one of the first-class cabins, he must be rather important. Is that right? That is not your business. Okay. Are you on watch here all the time, Seaman Stroganoff? All the time. So criminals like you cannot come in or get out. Wonder, could you tell us anything about last night at all? It is sad about student boy. Were you on watch last night as well? Of course. And did you notice anything at the time? Anything unusual? Niet? Susato-san, did you understand that? It was clearly a... No. I saw nothing unusual. Nothing at all. And you didn't hear any strange noises or sense anything was wrong in some way. I said, no. Sorry. I'm not so sure. I could have sworn that he wouldn't catch my eye for a moment there. Huh? Huh? This is enough. I cannot say more now. Oh. It is time for me to report to Captain. You must return to cabin. Oh boy, he's gonna go. Yes, alright. Bulkhead to second class area is staying locked at all times. You escape when the lobster whistles on top of the mountain, or as English say, when pigs fly. Yes, I understand. Good. Now we can investigate the area properly, shall we? Definitely. Okay. Examine. Nothing on the chair. Now. This way. What do you think this is? It's a very pleasing shape, isn't it? That's the emergency alarm. It's probably best not to touch it. Oh, an alarm. In caution in English on a Russian ship. It says, press only in times of emergency. It looks as though it sets alarm bells ringing all over the ship, and brings the vessel to a complete stop. Oh, this I have to see. What are you doing, Naruhodo-san? You mustn't touch it. But this is an emergency situation. Just look at these handcuffs. You know full well that's not what the alarm is for. If you were to bring this vessel to a standstill for no good reason, you'd be in an even worse situation. I wish everything would just stop. The ship included. If you have to do something foolish, at least make it something that doesn't affect anyone else. Advice for life. Alright. First class cabin number 1. Yes, that's our cabin. Not our cabin, it's Kazuma-sama's. Sorry? Your accommodation is confined to the wardrobe inside the cabin. You know how to make a stowaway feel small, don't you? As small as the wardrobe I've been calling home. These cabins are the finest on the ship. My own cabin in steerage is number 539, by the way. Do I have to know that? 500 and... How many cabins are there? Ah, a trap for catching mice. Yes, we have plenty of those back home in Japan. Although they seem to be using a lump of chalk or something as bait. Let me see. Yes, I think that's what is called cheese. It's made from the milk of cows. Cheese? I wonder what that tastes like. You can't eat it, Naruhodo-san. The trap will snap shut on your fingers. Really? But... I suppose you're right. You weren't actually going to try it, were you? All I've had to eat for the past couple of weeks is Kazuma's leftovers. You don't know how hungry I've been in that wardrobe. Or you. I'll find a little snack for you later. Alright. Just making sure there's nothing else. This is it. This is the cabin next to ours. The one the ventilator connects to. Yes, the ventilator from which Kazuma-sama wrote that he saw a speckled band emerging. Maybe whoever's in this cabin can help solve that particular mystery. Let's ask. No answer. We're out of luck, it seems. There's no one in there to help with our inquiries. How annoying. What was that? It came from inside the cabin. Such a high-pitched scream. It must have been a woman. Stand aside. Oh, it's you. I'm about to break the door down. Mr. Sholmes. I shan't be stopped. When the fit is on me, I revel in kicking doors off their hinges. Please, wait, Mr. Sholmes. The door doesn't appear to be bolted. It doesn't? Then how the deuce can I dispatch my muscular urge? This muscular urge. What, pray, what, pray, can I kick? I think we should go in. There's no time to think about stress relief. Sorry, it threw me a little bit having to go back into accent mode. January 9th, SS Berea. First class cabin, number 2. Who are you? A Western gentleman? This man looks Russian to me. Well, we heard a woman scream. A woman? Don't be absurd. As you can see, there's nobody but me in this cabin. Like, I'm noticing that, but, like, if this is presumably the door... True, that... Well, that's the door. No, that's... So, okay. The orientation. Anyway, true. This old man does appear to be the only person in here, but in that case, we just screamed. Get out, all of you. Now. See, I mean, fake beard, so should I be doing a higher, get out, all of you. Please excuse the intrusion, but you're Mr. Grimsby Roylott, I believe. Yes, that's me. And you are... see, should I put... He looks Russian, but we don't know what he sounds like. He didn't say he sounds Russian. I am the one and only, the actual Sherlock Holmes. You've heard of me, no doubt? No. I am the great detective among great detectives. One who adorns the covers of popular magazines, no less. So I assure you, you may trust me completely. The man uses that magazine like a business card. A detective? I do not trust detectives. We distinctly heard a scream emanating from within these walls. But there wouldn't appear to be a lady concealing herself in the wardrobe this time. So, might I be so bold as to ask you to open that small traveling case? Why, don't be stupid. How could anyone fit in a small trunk like that unless you were a ballerina? Gotcha. Well, it's quite fashionable these days, is it not? Traveling inside one's trunk? Don't look at me. Oh my, did you see that, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, the case just shook. Leave, now. Otherwise, I'll call the steward. So this is Cosmo's neighbor, Mr. Grimsby Roylott. See, we never... He's a Western gentleman, but, like, if he is indeed Russian... I don't know. Why couldn't they have just done voiceover for the whole game? There's no doubt about it. This strange Russian man is hiding something. I couldn't agree more. Let's see if we can find some clues before that burly sailor returns. Well, this isn't colored, so I mean, I guess I could have a conversation with him, but let's look around first, and then have conversation. See, now this one, what do you think you're doing? Ah! This is my cabin. Get out! Can you just have a quick look inside your traveling case, perhaps? No. What a pity. I think we're out of luck. I think you're right. There doesn't appear to be anything more we can do. I agree, but there may be someone else who can help. Perhaps that great detective could get somewhere with Mr. Roylott. So everything is checkmarked? Everything is checkmarked. I can't do it. Oh, that one's not open, unless it's I think it's all attached to this. That one's checkmarked. Yeah. I just want to know, I mean, why is the dish on the floor? Coat hooks, huh? Because I imagine he's going to say, what would you like me to investigate or ask about? Do you have a moment, please, Mr. Sholmes? You need only address me as Sholmes. That's what I just did, isn't it? Well, Mr. Sholmes, what were you doing in there? Why, I was resting, of course. Resting? Indeed, I was contemplating our sea voyage from the confines of the wardrobe whilst waiting. Waiting for the inevitable time that you would need to call my great powers of detection into service. Oh. And it would seem that the hour is upon us now. Choke on my own tongue. Is upon us now. The time has come. Am I mistaken? Well, no, actually, you're spot on, for once. Observe closely. Our Russian host in this cabin, Mr. Roylott, is clearly trying to hide something. And do you know what is the most effective weapon to use against a Russian hiding a secret? Her judo technique? Why, the truth, of course. Though it should be pointed out that such methods are not exclusively for the Russians. Right. Can you imagine how the Russian will react when the secret he guards so closely is exposed? Would you like to witness it? Oh yes, please. Well then, what you are about to see may well astound you. For I am about to apply my great detective's greatly admired great deduction to the case. Could this man be more hackneyed portrayal of a dubious Russian, I ask you? What? From time to time it occurs to me... Is the fellow dubious on account of his Russianness, or Russian on account of his dubiousness? I really don't think either of those things should be occurring to you, or anyone. That's right, Mr. Sholmes. I know this man's beard and dark glasses are hard to ignore, especially on first meeting, but I once read, "It is a capital mistake to theorize before you have all the evidence. It biases the judgment." Shh, I must have complete silence. Shush. But what are you doing? Why are you peering at my face like that? He's lady. Maybe not. Just as I thought. Yes, I have quite made up my mind now. There can be no other explanation that accommodates all the facts. Mr. Roylott, I have reached two incontrovertible conclusions. What do you mean? Number one, your true identity is that of a villain. Using those shears, you are about to end the existence of something most dear. Are you not? And number two, the other conclusion I have drawn, you are, at this very moment, no less, in the midst of committing a most grievous crime. Beneath that beard, your mouth quivers with nervous tension as you realize you have been discovered. Does it not? Oh, Naruhodo-san, I never imagined I would witness one of Mr. Sholmes' great deductions with my own eyes. That was a great deduction? Nothing can deceive Mr. Sholmes. In a single glance, he can deduce all there is to know about a person. Wanani? What an ineffable twaddle. Oh yes, I've read about it countless times in the adventures of Herlock Sholmes, and now I've experienced the astonishing impact of his great deduction firsthand. This is like a dream come true. I can hardly believe it, but all the color is drained from Mr. Roylott's face. It looks like somehow both of Mr. Sholmes' conclusions were right. How? How could I possibly know such things, you wish to say? Very well, then. I shall elucidate. I shall explain how it was that I arrived at this pair of conclusions. So, do I cordially invite you upon a journey of logical discovery. Let us board the train of reasoning. Put plainly, some of us work through my Put plainly, let us work through my deductions together. The great deduction. The game is afoot. Topic 1. Old man's identity. So, the dubious-looking Russian, Mr. Roylott, obviously, what catches the eye in the first place is the enormous pair of shears in your hand. Now, we ask ourselves, what could you possibly want with such an implement? The answer, of course, is staring us in the face. You were on the verge of using the shears to cut away the copious beard you sport. Now, moving on. The question then begged is this: why would you desire to rid yourself of this magnificent beard, Mr. Roylott? I feel like it has more to do with maybe the newspaper in his pocket there. Once again, the answer is plain. We have clear evidence to shed light on the matter. Regard, if you will, this morning's newspaper. In particular, but his nose isn't long and pointy. Unless he's got Mark's glasses on. In particular, the fascinating front page article. Which, it would appear, you have read also, Mr. Roylott. I'm sure it needs no further clarification. The evidence that reveals your true identity is the article about the revolutionary. In translation, the headline reads, Revolutionary Vilin Bolshevik flees Russia via Shanghai. As you cannot fail to observe, the subject of the article possesses an extremely copious beard. Having noted the article yourself, you decided to remove your incriminating facial hair before it gave you away. In short, your true identity is beyond doubt. You are the fearsome Russian revolutionary himself, Vilen Bolshevik. Not that I've heard of you myself, you understand. Conclusion. A revolutionary on the run. Topic 2. Wrongdoing. Now, as for my second conclusion, you are, at this very moment, on the brink of committing a most grievous crime. And the proof of this crime, over there. Oh yes, Mr. Roylott. Taken unawares, people have a propensity to let their eyes stray, you see. And I assure you, the eyes speak so much more eloquently and honestly than the mouth. The answer we seek lies where the furtive glance falls. Proof of your crime sits before our very eyes. Yes, that traveling case. It is time, I think, that the case be opened and its contents laid bare. No, I refuse. Is she the Russian ballerina? In disguise? And there's like a puppy in the suitcase? What could you possibly be concealing aside, we ask? By my estimation, a young lady, perhaps. One slight enough to fit therein. Don't be absurd. And what, pray, would be the identity of this young lady in the traveling case? Dear me, we are not well suited to a life of crime, are we? Your careless coup de roi betrays you. Once again, we need only follow your furtive glance to find the answer. Yes, the reason you refuse to open your traveling case can equally be found in the pages of this newspaper. For there is another most stimulating article. If we turn from the fleeing revolutionary to the back page, renowned prima ballerina of the Novovich Ballet disappears from Shanghai. Such a headline can lead us to but one conclusion. Your crime is that of abduction. And according to the article, the young lady's name is Nikolina Pavlova. Kidnapping of a young ballerina. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of the Russian enigma, Elemensky. Susato-san, that wasn't one of the great deductions I've been hearing so much about, was it? Well, the stories are full of Mr. Sholmes' brilliant deductions, you know. But that did seem a little different somehow. Excuse me, Mr. Sholmes, could you come over here a moment? Pray, what can I do for you? It's about your deductions. Would you mind? Not at all. Go on. Well, to start with, there's the newspaper article. I think we had the same discussion before, but these two men look nothing like each other. Ah, yes, I recall our discussion earlier, and at the time I believe I told you that the man is a revolutionary, well able to revolutionize his own appearance. In fairness to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Roylott does look more like this man than you do. That's not the point. And another thing, the part about him abducting the ballerina, indeed, a truly startling revelation. At first glance, the case would appear too small to accommodate a young woman. And not just at first glance, it is too small, clearly. You'd be lucky to fit a 5-year-old child into that case, even if you pushed really hard. I mean, to be fair, I made that same conclusion the minute I saw it, but whatever. I don't suppose the missing ballerina is a 5-year-old child, is she? You mean you don't know? No, the young lady is 15. No, I didn't know. How could I? Well, if she's 15, then 10 years' worth of her would be poking out from the case. Some years ago, I read something pertinent, I believe. A troop of men consuming vinegar daily in order to promote a certain litheness in their bodies. Vinegar? For such a sour bunch, it would surely be simplicity itself to contort oneself into the confines of this small case. Oh dear, you might be thinking of contortionists in the circus, Mr. Sholmes. This whole thing is turning into a circus. Mr. Naruhodo, something's occurred to me about Mr. Sholmes' deductions just now. I think his powers of observation are, well, magical. His eyes cut to the heart of a matter most instantly. I mean, and speaking of, he happens to have goggles that have X-ray vision, apparently, so we could see what's in that case. It's just where he directs his attention and his logic that seem a little off. Your idea of a little may be a little off itself, Miss Susato. It's just one or two key words in his deductions that seem to let him down. So I was wondering if we might perhaps tactfully switch them for alternatives. What do you think? Switch some key words in his deductions. Yes, but very tactfully. I feel sure if we could do that, we'd unlock the true genius of Mr. Sholmes' great deduction. Precisely the thought I was going through my own mind, or that was going through my own mind. Whatever, I can't read. This man is a lot of work. At times I wonder how anyone puts up with me. It's not that funny. Ah, and you, my good fellow. Sorry? Take a moment to look at your wrists. My wrists? Where are your handcuffs? Nani? How did you... I felt they may hinder your ability to follow me in our dance of deduction. I don't believe it. Mr. Sholmes, you are a marvel. And don't worry, I shall restore the shackles to your wrists when we are finished. I'm not worried. In fact, I'd rather stay like this. So, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Again? Again? Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. This is a different kind of trial. I like it, though. It's actually pretty cool. So, the dubious-looking Russian, Mr. Roylott, obviously what catches the eye in the first place. Okay, so this is where we're doing a... Okay, I get you. Enormous pair of shears in your hand. Now we ask ourselves, what could you possibly want with such an implement? The answer, of course, is staring us in the face. Copious beard. Is that the word I get to change? I'm not sure. Would you really use shears like that to cut off a beard? I doubt that's something I'll ever have to worry about. It doesn't quite sit right with me, though. It doesn't seem to be sitting right with Mr. Roylott either. Which means, I suppose, that the deduction is wrong. Let's try to switch a keyword here, Naruhodo-san, and see if it helps matters. Alright, but how? I think we should start by taking a long, hard look at Mr. Roylott. I wonder if it's really his beard that he intended to use those shears on. Exactly. If we do manage to find something that seems to fit the sense of Mr. Sholmes' deduction better, then what? Then I'll leave the rest in your capable hands, Naruhodo-san. Why am I the one to do something about this? Well, anyway, let's see if there's anything we could even use to switch around in that last sentence. What exactly was Mr. Roylott really going to use those enormous shears for? The cat? The coat buttons. It wouldn't make much sense to cut the hat, would it? Why would we be cutting the hat? I feel like that's the obvious one. Like you would miss it by not going down here, you know what I mean? And the fact that this arm has always been in the pocket would imply to me that it's fake, that the real arm is within this, and thus the only way maybe to get out would be to cut it open? Let's do this. Are you looking at the buttons on his coat? Could it be that Mr. Roylott was planning to cut these off? Oh, why? Well, when you're wearing thick gloves, it can be very hard to undo buttons. Then, couldn't you just take off your gloves first? Aha! So he was going to use the scissors to cut his gloves off then. No, not quite. I want you to take a deep breath and look at this from a fresh perspective, Naruhodo-san. I think she's angry. Okay, apparently not. Well, then the only thing left is his thick hat. It's a very thick hat, isn't it? Ah, that's a secret. You see, Naruhodo-san? Don't you know? Secret? What? Well, before we left Japan, I took some time to study various foreign countries. Russia is a land of unimaginable cold. And a thick hat is the secret to keeping warm. Without one, I read that your brain would freeze. That was just one of many fascinating snippets of information in Oh Mother, Not Russia. I think maybe you picked the wrong book there. Can we... Oh, okay. The Golden Locks. I was the ballerina. Naruhodo. What the? What's this? It looks like a cascade of stunning golden locks. No. The color's not the point. The point is, what's it doing on the back of Mr. Roylott's head? And how is it growing out from underneath his thick black hair? Well, yes, that's true. So it's stunningly beautiful and stunningly surprising. Something's definitely not right here. I would like to present...
Yes!
Golden Locks. You are on the verge of using the shears to cut away the golden locks you sport. Indeed, you have identified the precise detail I was intending to expose. Such lush golden hair certainly does not befit an old man. You're not a man at all. You're a woman, and judging from the length and sheen of your hair, one still very much in her youth. Oh no. If only I had managed to cut off my hair, no one would have suspected. I mean, if I'd been able to actually hear your voice, I perhaps would have. The question then is begged is this: why would you desire to rid yourself of these magnificent locks? Once again, the answer is plain. We have clear evidence to shed light on the matter. Go on. I'm sure it needs no further clarification. The evidence that reveals your true identity is the article about the revolutionary. That was a shock. I had no idea that old man was really a young woman in disguise, did you? What? Why are you staring at me like that? Yes, it was a surprise. Naruhodo-san. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Sorry? You look like you're in your element as you dance around the room, deducing the facts with Mr. Sholmes. I'm just doing what we agreed. I'm not having fun or anything. This is strictly business, not strictly... Yes, I understand. Say no more. Well, anyway, let's focus on the next part of Mr. Sholmes' deduction, shall we? The evidence that he's picked out doesn't fit the facts at all now. No, that's true. Given that Mr. Roylott is actually a woman. Exactly. He, or rather she, can't possibly be this merciless revolutionary. I suppose it's because the deduction as a whole has taken a different direction now. Yes. Let's switch the evidence for something else, something that fits the facts as we now understand them. For some reason, this woman needed to try to hide her true identity. I feel as though I've either read or heard about a young woman in a situation like that recently. Alright, I'll do my best.
Yes!
Article about the ballerina. The evidence that reveals your true identity is, of course, the article about the ballerina. That's right. You've hit the nail on the head. Renowned prima ballerina of the Novovich Ballet disappears from Shanghai. It would appear we are finally able to address you by your true name. Yes, because your true identity is that of the Novovich Ballet's prima ballerina, Miss Nikolina Pavlova. Perhaps you should have removed the earring, too. Did she just put that back? You're right. My real name is Nina. I mean, Nikolina Pavlova. But please, I beg you, don't tell anyone. A ballerina on the run. Solved. Now we're on to wrongdoing. Now, as for my second conclusion. You are, at this very moment, on the brink of committing a most grievous crime. And the proof of this crime, over there. Oh yes, Miss Pavlova. Taken unawares, people have a propensity to let their eyes stray, you see. And I assure you, blah-de-blah, we've gone through this already. The answers we seek lie in the furtive glance. At the traveling case. This woman is the ballerina, and she's right in front of our eyes. So clearly she can't be inside that traveling case as well. No, that's right. It seems she wasn't abducted at all. In which case, what is the crime this young woman is apparently committing? The tiara, of course. I can see I'm not going to have to step in and fix the great detective's mistake again. You seem to look pleased, Naruhodo-san. Do you like the idea of another chance to dance around with Mr. Jones? Why do... Stop it. Anyway, there must be something else here that shows what this woman is up to. Okay, let's look at it, I guess. It's a very small case, isn't it? You can see instantly that no person could possibly fit inside there. So, does that tell us that Miss Pavlova's telling glance in this direction was focused on something else? If that's true, though, it doesn't make sense. What do you mean? Well, if there's nothing incriminating inside this case, why did she refuse to let us look inside? Yes, I wonder why. Perhaps she has a perfectly harmless reason, though. Like Le Dog, or whatever. I mean... Oh, okay. I just... Tiara. The tiara is hiding behind that, you sneaky sausages. Enhance, rotate 90 degrees. Wow, look at that dazzling tiara. I've never seen anything like it. Are those real diamonds, do you think? Oh, Naruhodo-san, try it on. What? Me? Isn't it usually girls who wear tiaras? Wouldn't you like to try it on? Oh no, I couldn't possibly. It's far too beautiful. Why does this tiara look familiar? I feel like I've seen it somewhere recently. Okay, well, let me look around first, just in case there's something else I'm missing. Waste paper basket. Okay. The waste paper basket? Let's have a little look inside. Naruhodo-san, it's poor etiquette to go sifting through someone's rubbish, you know? Ah, those eyes. She's looking at me like I'm a piece of rubbish now. However, there are special circumstances, I think. These are special circumstances. Exactly, we have no choice. There's hardly anything in here at all. Oh, well, that's a little disappointing. Aha! I forgot this is a thing. Okay, let's present.
Yes!
The proof of your crime sits before our very eyes, the tiara. The proof of your crime is surely this tiara. Ah! I believe this tiara is worn on stage by dancers in the Novovich Ballet, is it not? Indeed, it would appear to be identical to the tiara pictured here in this newspaper article. And if the reporting is to be believed, it's an item worth 20,000 rubles. In summary, the crime you have committed is theft. Oh no! Yes, you left your ballet troupe unlawfully, taking their precious tiara with you. Then why would they... And they knew that, so they searched the wrong cabin. I was right all along. I have no one, no family, no friends. I'm all alone, and I need money. But I did not steal the tiara. It was a present from, how do you say, an Earl of Prussia? It belongs to me. This girl is only 15 years old, and she's run away all by herself. She must have been extremely lonely. All right, I will tell you everything. There is no point to hiding it now. Come, let's not be hasty. What? There remains one unsolved mystery about you. Mystery? What do you mean? You have staunchly refused to open this traveling case of yours in our presence. It is reasonable to conclude, therefore, that there exists some reason why you wish it to remain closed. I've completely lost my accent now. It is a mix of whatever. It's a mix of foreign right now. Is that not so, Miss Pavlova? My dear girl, there is no sense in playing games with me. Nothing escapes my attention. Indeed, I have a very good idea of the contents of your case, even before I have ever laid eyes on it. Dear me, we are not well suited to a life of crime, are we? Okay, are we doing this again? Furtive glance. La-di-doo. It's the same as mine. Yes, the reason why you refuse to open your case is written in the books on the shelf. Yeah, this wasn't the deduction before. He's completely changed tack with his deduction now. I think Mr. Sholmes is adapting his logic to the changing circumstances, don't you? Maybe, but why has he suddenly brought the bookshelf into all this? It was just a wild guess, surely. Oh, you think so? Well, it doesn't seem likely that the reason why this young woman doesn't want to open her case would have been written in a book that doesn't even belong to her. Yes, that's true, but still, Miss Pavlova certainly did cast her eyes in that direction. I noticed it myself. Then there has to be another reason why she won't open her case. And it must be somewhere in the same area, if that's where her gaze was involuntarily drawn. I agree. That's the only answer. Whatever she has hidden inside that case should be revealed by following her gaze in the direction of the bookcase. This is a charming little picture, isn't it? What is it? Someone climbing a steep mountainside? Or a descending one, it seems to me. When you've been on the flat sea for a while, maybe you start seeing hills and mountains and everything. This would be no. Okay, now I guess we can still go over here, huh? Okay. It's just a simple left-right, though. Why won't she open? Okay, wait, The books on the shelf. It looks like these are all the same books that we have in our cabin. I suppose the steward likes to make sure passengers have plenty to read for the long voyage. And, have you noticed how all the books have fallen over, just like in Kazuma-sama's cabin? It's almost like someone's taken a sweep at them. Maybe Miss Pavlova? She was practicing her ballet? Anyway, the point is, we don't have time to look through all these books at the moment. We couldn't even if we wanted to. They're all in Russian. Now that's a relief. Let's try our luck elsewhere. The rules of passage. These are rules of passage for travel aboard the SS Burya. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. I called it! I mean, the case moved. It was obvious there's something living in there. It was exactly the same notice in our cabin, too. I wonder what happens if you break the rules. Oh dear, I'm sure the punishment would be severe, Naruhodo-san. You'd probably be left adrift in the freezing cold ocean, or shut inside a tiny wardrobe for days on end. So I've actually been serving time for weeks now, have I? Well, this must be it then, eh? It's a metal door, the same as in Cosmos' cabin. Yes, and the rather slim bolt is the same as well. Well, if Miss Pavlova is actually glancing over at the door here instead of the bookcase, that would suggest a desire to run away from this cabin. Maybe.
Yes!
Yes, the reason why you refuse to open your case is written in the rules of passage. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in the cabin. Pets are also strictly forbidden. Inside that case of yours is something forbidden from the carriage on this vessel. That is the real reason why you refuse to open it, thus revealing its contents. As we've seen, the trunk wobbles from time to time, but no weapon or other dangerous item would move of its own accord. Which leaves but one possibility, Miss Pavlova. Inside your traveling case is the last item listed as forbidden in the vessel's rules of passage. A pet? I think we just have to assume that these are always going to be long episodes. I was hoping we could get to a break point, but that is not going to be happening. Possession of a prohibited animal solved. Deduction complete. Elementary. So clearly, you aren't who you said you were. No, I'm not Grimsby Roylott. My real name is Nikolina Pavlova. Everything you said was correct. You absconded during one of your ballet company's performances in order to escape from your homeland. Later the same night, you stole aboard this vessel. Which couldn't have been easy. The Burya is a huge steamship with a vast crew. Could she really have snuck on board without being noticed? In order to obscure your true identity, you somewhat recklessly took the guise of an old gentleman. And you intended to sever all links with your past by severing your long hair. Yet, to a woman, hair is no trifling matter. My personal recommendation is to leave well alone. So, if it was just you about to cut off your own hair, who was it that let out the scream we heard from outside the cabin? At a veritable tinkling of a bell. Why, none other than this young lady, naturally. Unless there was a snake going through her room. More like a full set of pipes, if you ask me. I was so scared when I ran away in Shanghai. I was sure they would come looking for me. That's why I decided to, how do you say, disgust myself, so no one would recognize me. As a result, you transformed yourself into that questionable old man? I see. I put on the fur hat and fake beard. Then, just before you came in here, I saw in the newspaper, right on the page, there was a picture of me. I was so frightened, I couldn't stop from screaming. I knew that if I didn't change my appearance completely, they would find me. So I decided to cut all my hair as fastly as possible. I picked up the scissors in my hand and... At that precise moment, we walked in through the annoyingly unlocked cabin door. Things happen like that sometimes, don't they? Things do indeed happen like that, from time to time. Are those two even talking about the same thing? There's just one more thing I'd like to know. What exactly do you have inside your traveling case? You are right, it is my dear friend inside, my only friend in the whole world. Please, don't tell anyone. If the captain finds out, if you say to... it's the snake is her... The snake is a pet. If you say to any of the crew... Your secret is safe with us, I assure you. But in return... You must tell us, in as much detail as you can muster, about the events of last night. Yes, all right. I will tell you. Well, Mr. Naruhodo? Wasn't it something, Mr. Sholmes's great deduction? Wasn't it something, Mr. Holmes's great deduction? Put some inflection on it, goddammit. It was certainly something, yes. I'm just not entirely sure what. But at least Miss Pavlova has agreed to tell us what she knows. That's incredible. Indeed, it is incredible. Incredible. Good. Ah, and one more thing. Oh, yes, what? Observe your wrists. Oh, my... Ah, your hands are cuffed again. Nani? But how? True to my word, I have restored your shackles. Thank you. When and why? There's still a shadow of guilt cast over you, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry to say, it can't be helped at the moment. Can't it? Really? Anyway, let's listen to what Miss Pavlova has to say. I can't go on not knowing. I have to find out what the speckled band that Kazuma-sama wrote about in his diary really was. Well, I'm afraid we'll have to wait until next time.